right in.
But I definitely like the NC's picks because they're all strong cavalry civilizations. So it almost feels like a reverse of game one where Rain Team went for cavalry civs.
Yeah, it does kind of feel like a reverse of game one in a way. Now, of course, for those of you just tuning in, I'd like to personally welcome you all to the African Kingdoms Expert 3v3 Showcase, hosted by myself, Resonance22, and Robo, who will be co-casting with me today. This is going to be Game 3 in the Best of 5 series. If you've missed out on any of the matches so far, everything you need is in the video description as well as the rules. The goal of these matches, of course, is to show us how the top Age of Empires 2 experts will play the brand new expansion. In Game 3, each team is required to pick one forgotten civilization, and they will be playing on the new map, Kilimanjaro. For those of you watching live, feel free to also ask the mods for any of the rules. Looks like the drafts of the team are quite interesting, and really I think some of the more notable picks here is probably going to be the Slavs for the Rain team. The Slavs are one of the civilizations added in the Forgotten that I think can be compared to the Celts, and I'm looking forward to see if really just how they turn out in general. I think that they're a pretty good civilization, perhaps the second strongest one in the Forgotten, but that's up for debate.
It'll be very interesting to see how they use these civs. Because, like with the Aztecs, they get the flank position. Their strong drush could potentially block out any of the scout rushes we'd probably see from the cavalry civs. But if they're pocket, they could also go for a fairly strong sling, which would probably help the Slavs get into their mid to late game powerhouse units faster than they would normally.
I'll have to see how it turns out. Right now, the Rain team is complaining, of course, about the raid that's going on apparently at Kongensgade's place in the background. Everyone selected their teams,
And
and
we're
it's going to
off.
be cavalry versus some infantry and Mongols.
Oh, Mongols are technically a cavalry civ. Magyars are on horses, right?
Yeah.
That's how this works.
All right, so we're into Game 3. I hope that this series ends up going on to like a Game 4 and a Game 5. That way we can see some Regicide Fortress. And, well, we're on Kilimanjaro, so this is a map that's very, very open, sort of similar to Arabia and Oasis. A lot of the trees are in the center of the map, and I shall introduce the NC team, and then you may introduce the Rain team, I suppose. All right, so on the right side of the map, we have Pedro playing as the Blue Huns. A little bit above him, we have NilPferD playing as the Red Berbers. And on the far right corner, we have Andorin playing as the Green Magyars.
And then opposite Andorin, we have Kong as the Mongols and Teal, with Barles being the pocket civ as Aztec, so we could be seeing a sling from him, maybe a mush, but I don't think that's very likely. And then finally, we have the Slavs, which is Spring on the opposite flank versus Pedro.
I think it's interesting that you bring up the Aztec sling possibility. One of the reasons why we might see that is because generally the Mesoamerican civs, while they're typically quite strong in the flank, at least in the Aztecs case, in the pocket, they're not generally considered to be that great. Without having access to something like knights, crossmen are generally speaking a little bit too slow to apply pressure to the enemy flanks. Still, though, this is the Forgotten, or African Kingdoms in this case, so these players do have access to Eagle Warriors, which, after some buffs, might be a viable alternative to knights, or they might just continue going for a sling strategy.
I think sling is probably going to be the most likely option, considering their background in normal AOC, where Eagle Warriors and Castle Age is a pretty strong taboo. It's just being considered a complete waste of your time.
Yeah, and with those extra resources, which if, Barles ends up going for that strategy, he will be he'll be focusing almost entirely during the early game on just tributing resources to Spring as well as Kongensgade to try and allow them to slingshot sort of through the ages, gain a technology lead, and sort of snowball the game from there. So far in every game.
Maybe he can only sling one of his allies.
Oh, God.
That would be interesting.
Also
who is
a
he
good
going to be
point.
able to sling? Not who does he want to, who is he possibly able to?
Yeah, in Game 2 we saw a really interesting bug where NC was actually only able to sling one of their teammates for absolutely no reason at all. So HD has a wide variety of interesting bugs that keep the game fresh. So maybe the sling strategy is ill-advised for Barles, as maybe he's only able to sling Spring for some reason. We'll have to find out. Maybe he'll go for the Eagle Warriors. Who knows?
Oh, Spring just lost a vill to an elephant, but also Nilly said that in game 1 they were still unable to sling one player. They couldn't sling Pedro. They wanted to sling some stone at some stage, but they were unable to.
Wow. And they won anyway.
Yeah, but it wasn't a big deal because they were mostly slinging Andorin.
Oh man, he can't get the restart either, right? Because it was before 4 minutes.
Yes, and it's for 419. That pesky elephant.
Absolute tragedy. The elephants in this series have been, really, really aggressive, slaying villagers left and right. One thing that's interesting about the elephants themselves is that they actually have 400 food, which is quite a bit more than normal. And yes, guys, these are ostriches, but they function the exact same way as deer. Kilimanjaro is a really awkward map to play because you don't have a standard distribution of resources. You actually have 1 elephant instead of 2 boars. I believe you have 6 ostriches instead of the usual 3 or 4 deer. Only 4 forage bushes. That might mess up some of these players' starts.
I believe you only get 6 sheep, if I remember correctly. 4 or 6 sheep. Just to make it even more confusing.
Yes.
As well as the wood lines looking really weird with their gaps in between trees.
Originally, we were planning to do Far Out because it's one of the more tame special maps, I guess. It has one of the least ridiculous setups. It's pretty balanced. And it's one of my personal favorites, whereas a lot of them, like Canyons, are just really awkward to play because there's like no space to build. We can't do Far Out, though, or any of the special maps because they're all broken in HD right now. If you have spectators, it shifts all the players and puts them in the wrong positions, which totally ruins the dynamic. So, Kilimanjaro is a replacement choice, and boy, is this map tricky to play. Pedro putting up a palisade wall. This is going to be one of the hardest wall-offs of his life.
Oh, well, I think he's just doing that just to protect his villager while he builds the barracks, but I think his map is actually fairly wallable. Like, that lake is in the perfect position for him to wall.
That's true.
Like, the edge of the map just in front of his stone, and then he can sort of wall towards that middle wood just to delay the enemy getting into his base where they have to negotiate those trees, which would make it very difficult for, like, a large group of archers.
Yeah, he won't be able to completely wall off, of course, because these trees have an obnoxious, like, tiny little spaces between them, so you're right that this palisade wall is probably just to protect his villager a little bit. At least he would be able to wall off the left side, stall for time, perhaps give him warning for an attack, time to prepare. And speaking of an attack, it looks like Spring is going to start with a Slav Drush.
It's not a bad choice. Like, it doesn't particularly... They don't have any bonuses that really help them other than the faster farmers, which will come into effect on this map since there isn't standard food distribution. So that'll help him get up to castle age pretty quickly afterwards.
Do the Slavs also get free tracking? Yeah, they do. Yeah.
I believe that only kicks in feudal age.
You would be correct. So that's probably not going to be relevant for quite a while, as if you look at Spring's resource distribution, it'll be a little bit before he gets up to the next stage. Now, in my experience, going for a Drush fast castle age is a massive pain in the butt on Kilimanjaro due to the slightly smaller amount of free food resources that you have access to, so this might end up delaying their feudal ages a little bit. Right now, Spring trying to get the engage on Pedro, but Pedro ignoring him entirely, going to push out, but Pedro has his scout, so Spring's outnumbered.
Spring just needs to bring his scout in, and yeah, it's just coming past his barracks now, so it's almost in a position where he can engage.
Well, Spring's unfortunately going to have to push back, and he's already lost a lot of HP on one of his militia, meaning that when this fight actually happens, Spring will be at a colossal disadvantage. Pedro, of course, is going to try his best to keep track of the HP on that one militia and focus fire it down. Spring moving far forward with his scout, Pedro looking for an opportunity to engage.
I have noticed that Spring has gathered an extra 20 gold, so we might consider adding in a 4th militia sometime soon. Although I think at this stage he's lost this fight pretty convincingly.
Yeah, I think he was considering that, and that would have perhaps turned this fight around, except Pedro got so much free damage, and he was able to win that engagement pretty convincingly with 2 militia left while they're low on HP. He does have his scout alive still, and he will be able to harass the villagers from Spring.
I'm mostly interested in what Barles is going to do at this stage. And he has, I must point out, a very nice mining camp between both of his gold mines, which will help him for later in the game.
Another really weird thing about this map is how close the stone mines and gold mines actually spawn to both each other and your town center. Ooh, Pedro walking right into the wrong neighborhood, going to lose both of his militia to that town center, and with that, there goes his dreams of harassing Spring's economy.
On the other side of the map, Kong is coming in with some scouts towards Andorin, who appears to be just going for spearman defense.
The patented Resonance22 build.
Yeah, I can. Oh, he's just building a stable now, but this is very, very late for a stable.
If I had to guess, his build has been a little thrown off because of the bizarre resource distribution on these maps. I can't help but feel that this map could really benefit from just having larger forests that aren't in the middle of the map, but I digress. This one spearman will be good enough, I think, to defend against these scouts for a little bit, but really the problem for Andorin is his economy is a little bit out of whack. He has a lot of idle villagers, and he's not going to be able to make his own scouts for a while, even though he can defend against this.
Well, he has quite a lot of food in the bank, so once he does get the stable up, he'll have no problem making some scouts. He just needs to be careful when he's chopping his wood line, because there's a hole in the trees on the other side. So as soon as he chops one of those trees, scouts will be able to run in and harass it on the right-hand side.
That's what makes this map so obnoxious. Still, though, Kongensgade recognizing that it's really just not worth it to harass Andorin because he has all of those spearmen to protect him. So why not go straight to NilPferD, pick off a couple of villagers for free? So this is great. And if he can back up here without losing any scouts, that's going to really set NilPferD back.
Well, NilPferD's gone for a market, and he's got the resources for a fast castle. Oh no, he's slinging. He's researching coinage right now. I don't think this is going to be a good idea at all to try to sling on this map. Because he's going to chop through that wood line extremely quickly, and then he's going to have problems.
Yeah, one of the downsides of slinging is that you basically have no means to defend yourself. So this means that if you get attacked and the map generation is set up in a way where you can't easily wall up, then your flanks have to go defend you, and they're forfeiting a lot of offensive pressure. The longer that you wait to take advantage of that sling and to start pushing out aggressively, then, well, perhaps your opponent's population advantage might come to bite you in the butt, and this is one of the most aggressive maps we have.
NilPferD just chopped through 2 trees on his wood line, completely opening it up. This is so bad for him.
And this is why I hate this map. NilPferD trying his best to fight back against these Mongol scouts, but there are just so many scouts here. That's a ridiculous amount of idle time. And honestly, like, NilPferD has no barracks, so he can't make any spearmen. He has to fight back with his villagers. He will be able to push these scouts back, but at what cost?
You say this is why we hate this map, but this is also why we love this map. Not for playing, but for watching. Like, this is exactly what you want to see when you're casting a game.
True that, true that. The aggression here is really just doing a number on NilPferD. He's having so much trouble dealing with these scouts. All those villagers might as well be dead. You don't actually have to kill any of these villagers. Killing them is a plus, of course, but if they're not gathering, then that's a lot of economic damage. I don't know what NilPferD's plan is going to be. And in the meantime, Spring moving up with some of those Slavic archers and a few spearmen.
Oh, I think it's interesting. Pedro tried to make a palisade gate.
Oh?
Next to his 2 stables there, but he didn't manage to get a villager over there in time.
Ah, the shame.
So that would be cool to see. Palisade gates then, you guys.
It's one of the first palisade gates we'll have ever seen in competitive Age of Empires 2 history. I like that Spring is bringing up a couple of forward spearmen with his archers. This is, of course, because Pedro did open up with the scouts. He is on 2 stables. Thank you, James Smallman, for the resub. Really appreciate it. So the spearmen will sort of discourage Pedro from making any scouts to try and defend against himself, and now Pedro has been forced to build a watchtower, but I like this positioning. It will sort of protect his wood line and that gold mine as well.
It does to some respect. Those archers, they could still get into that little corner tree there and hide there. And I think that is going to be a significant problem with this wood line. It's so easy to just walk some archers into a really tiny corner that's a lot smaller than it is normally. And knights will have a very tough time against mass archers in these woodlines.
If there's one thing I've learned on this map is that nothing is ever safe. And speaking of safe, Kongensgade is going to try and defend as best he can against all of Andorin's scouts, which are trying to do some economic harassment, but will have to fall back. Meanwhile, Spring massing up a lot of spearmen, and he's sort of forced into this because Pedro is in the castle age now, able to make knights from 2 stables. Spearmen aren't the best answer to knights. You kind of have to have that pikeman upgrade first.
But at this stage, it's all he can really do. Because he doesn't have anywhere near the amount of archers you would want to try to take a fight, but even just 2 or 3 knights, let alone 6 with bloodlines and +1 armor.
Yeah, Spring does not have really any better options, and he's going to try and salvage a terrible situation to the best of his abilities. And he even has +1 defense on his spearmen to try and give them a little bit more survivability, but his army is going to get mopped up. Now Spring, with almost no military population, has to prepare to defend, but this is Kilimanjaro. He can't wall up.
Just to make things even more difficult for him. He's dropping a second barracks. He's really planning on going heavy on the spearmen now.
And another reason why he has to is because the way his economy is set up, unfortunately, Spring just does not have the resources to go to the Castle Age anytime soon, so he has to commit to an extended Feudal Age fight versus Knights that have bloodlines and +1 defense. Things are looking very bad for Spring.
Oh, Spring Vil-bashing Knights. Oh, this is going to be horrible.
Since Knights have a 2 Dura armor, that means they take only 1 damage from those villagers, and with 120 HP, they're so resilient. Spring, recognizing that he can't take this fight, sending all of his villagers into that town center. They might as well all be dead, because they're not gathering anything, and most of them are dead.
And then if we just have a look at Barles, he's just casually booming away, making a couple of monks, and just not really doing anything to support his team at the moment. So they're sort of stuck both in the Feudal Age, having to hold on until Barles is able to make Eagle Warriors at around the 28 to 30 minute mark.
My hope is that if we do this again, that we see more of, I guess, an aggressive approach from some sort of Aztecs pocket player, because I feel like you could still go for Eagle Warriors and it's okay. These monks are going to take so long to actually reinforce and try and push Pedro back, and meanwhile, Spring is just dying. It might be okay, though, because NilPferD is also quite weak, even though he's getting his sling on, so they're down but not out.
I think that Spring is in a much worse position than NilPferD was. Because, yeah, NilPferD lost about 5 or 6 vills, but Spring is losing, I would estimate, at least 10 vills so far. As well as all the resources he put into army that haven't really done anything to touch Pedro. Like, they might have killed 1 or 2 vills, I think that's about it.
Yeah, and while NilPferD suffered a ridiculous amount of economic damage, he was able to finally push back the scouts, but these are knights. They're just going to be the elephant in the room that's going to be lingering in his own base for essentially the rest of the game, and you can't possibly make enough spearmen to defend against this, and without some tributes, I don't think Spring will ever be able to get to the Castle Age.
Oh, but Barles is here to save the day with his 3 Aztec monks. Completely unupgraded, but maybe it'll be enough to turn the tide.
Well, is he going to get 1 conversion? Alright, so he gets 3 conversions off on these knights, which might be enough to turn this around. Probably not.
3 knights that were already on basically no health. 1 knight was instantly KO'd as soon as it was converted. It was literally on about 12 health.
And the other knight not joining the fight until it's far too late. At least they baited Pedro underneath the town center, where he's taking a lot of damage from those town center shots and spearmen, significantly weakening his army, but still, Spring sustaining a ridiculous amount of losses. Once again, down to 28 population, 24 minutes in the game. This is going to be really tricky for him to build back, and these knights are still alive.
Even if we just compare this to NilPferD, he's on 41 pop, and he hasn't made any army at all whatsoever. His villages, it's only villages that have been made. There's no army whatsoever there, and he's still got close to double the pop of Spring.
Oh god, look at his base. Look at NilPferD's base. Kongensgade really wants into this. He wants to take NilPferD out of the game so we can have a cripple fight of the century. But NilPferD actually somehow completely walled up on Kilimanjaro. Check out that ghetto base. Not a hole in the wall, so Kongensgade has to swing around and try and maybe defend Spring.
Maybe, but I don't think those scouts are going to be able to do too much at all this tonight. Like, even though they are fully upgraded, they're still Feudal Age scouts. Oh, now they're Castle Age scouts. Maybe he could get light cav as Mongols. That might be worthwhile.
Yeah, it might be okay. It looks like actually Pedro has finally lost a little bit of momentum. The Aztec monks took approximately 3 million years to actually arrive to help Spring, but Barles has eventually sort of pushed this back. Pedro has to regroup, and Spring down to 19 population, so he's basically dead. If they can kill NilPferD, they might be able to almost even it out. We'll have to see. And thank you for Troy for the sub.
But the thing is that Pedro here, he's on 3 TCs and he's booming away. Like, so he's not making a lot of knights at the moment, but the damage he's done, he can just happily sit at home and just rebuild, mass up some line, and then go out again. There's no immediate pressure on raiding at the moment.
Oh yeah, he can sit back, build up. He has a colossal lead on his side. Over double the score of Spring, even though the scores are out of order. Well, actually, wait, no, they're almost in order this time. Almost. Kongensgade trying to do a little bit of raiding with those light cavalry. They have 98 HP, that's respectable, but Pedro has enough town centers and a defensive watchtower. The way his base is structured, he should be able to hold the line pretty easily.
Something else we need to point out, that Barles is up to Imperial Age. He's 26% of the way up. So we'll be seeing Eagle Warriors coming in soon to hopefully save the Rain team. And while this is happening, Kong is going forward with some villages on the left-hand side of Andorin's base.
Looks like it's going to be a forward siege workshop, which will allow him to apply a lot of pressure easier. One of the reasons why forward siege workshop's a great idea is because if you build it in your own base, you have to walk the siege weapons across the entire map. It'll take forever. It looks like, though, this forward siege workshop might get denied by this one spearman. The spearman does have +2 attack, and, well, Kongensgade has to pull back a couple of his light cavalry to defend that forward villager. In the meantime, those two players are pretty close, Kongensgade and Andorin, so I look forward to seeing how this battle unfolds.
But again, Andorin's been in Castle Age for, I think, a little bit longer than Kong has. He's got 3 TCs, whereas Kong's only just getting his 3rd one up. And he's also done a lot more damage to Kong recently. Because I saw he had some knights in his wood line only 2 minutes ago, and he killed about 4 or 5 hills.
Yeah, I think the problem is that Andorin just really won't have enough military units right now. There's just a much larger army for Kongensgade, so even though Andorin has a little bit of a higher score, it's probably going to be a victory that is short-lived. The army coming into the gold mine is going to have a lot of trouble defending against this. In the meantime, Spring up to 33 population, but Barles is so close to the Imperial Age. He is up to the Imperial Age. Will the Eagle Warriors be enough to turn the game? Nah.
Oh, he forgot to do the Eagle Warrior upgrade.
Oh.
He just has Eagle Scouts at the moment. This is going to delay their push by a good minute or 2 now, which is quite significant since everyone's able to has time to make more TCs, wall up a little bit if they can, do something to prevent the Eagles getting in.
This is something we were trying to talk about a little bit earlier in the game. I was thinking it's cute that Barles is the Aztecs is doing some raiding with knights. It's always funny to look at. Is that Eagle Scouts actually take like a minute to create. They create so much slower than Eagle Warriors and Elite Eagle Warriors do. So you really want to get that Eagle Warrior upgrade first before you start making the Eagles. Otherwise, it's going to take a really long time for that army to come out. And, well, Barles does have that upgrade. All eyes are on him.
To do Elite Eagle.
Oh!
He's so used to the standard AOC Elite Eagle Warrior rush that he doesn't have the extra 300 food you need for Eagle Scout. Oh, no, never mind. He is actually researching it. I am just blind.
Well, it's difficult to keep track of all that stuff without the glorious Voobly Spectator dashboard that we all know and love.
But yeah, I'm just waiting for these Eagles to go straight to NilPferD and completely wreck him. Because he's open again now. He's got farms all over the place. He's chopping wood all over the place.
This is not a particularly safe base. I would feel really, really nervous having my layout like that. But he doesn't really have a choice. This is Kilimanjaro, one of the riskier maps, I think, to do any slinging on. And right now, well, Kongensgade pushing forward, but Andorin doing a great job holding the line here. We've had some very, very close battles, and Kongensgade's like, I need help. This forward's not working. Andorin held the line.
And Nili is going for some pretty crazy stone walls in the middle of the map, it seems.
Oh.
Trying to block off the many, many paths of the forests.
Walling off on this map is going to be, I think, one of the hardest things that these players have ever done. Oh, it looks like Spring is doing a little bit of tributing, which is perhaps wise considering that I don't think he'll be able to do that much in this game. He has a group of, patrolling spearmen in his base. It's going to take a long time for him to build back. The Eagle Warriors are moving out. Pedro trying to do some damage. We have to see the impact of this.
The thing is, Pedro is also up Imperial Age, so once he's able to get Cavalier and then Paladin, he'll be able to counter the Eagles pretty well. So as long as they can prevent the Eagle Warriors from doing too much economic harassment in the next 5 minutes, they could probably come out ahead.
Yeah, and really, without Garland Wars, it's not like these Elite Eagle Warriors are that much stronger than the regular Castle Age Eagle Warriors are in the Forgotten, so I wonder if it was worth delaying all this. Maybe he could have actually defended Spring with some Eagle Warriors earlier on. We'll have to see, because Pedro is looking like he's in a bit of trouble right now. His villagers getting pushed back. Eagle Warriors streaming everywhere despite the stone walls in the middle. If somebody's getting to NilPferD's base, he is toast.
I'm just waiting to see where the hole is somewhere in this wood line in the middle of the map. I'm sure there has to be a hole somewhere. I'm hoping there is, just for the hilarity that will ensure.
Well, there probably is a hole, but it looks like Barles isn't going to, take the time to try and find it. He's just going to walk around the wall entirely, deny it from actually being completed. Yeah, he's getting some idle time on Pedro's 10 centers. Barles looking like he could actually turn this game around. There are a couple of Eagle Warriors into NilPferD's base, and that's basically GG for him, so it's a 2v2 now.
But he's also raiding everybody else as well. Like, he's got Eagles running around Andorin's base, Pedro's base, and this is giving Kong a little bit of time to rebuild his economy and get back in the game.
Alright, so it looks like I stand corrected with Barles fast imp into Elite Eagle Warriors. The Flood is here. It's going to be a lot for the opposing team to deal with, and it actually might end the game, so... Yeah, Rain Team with perhaps a potentially really impressive comeback. I like that Spring recognized that he wasn't really going to be able to do too much this game besides Sling, so he's been tributing gold non-stop to Barles, allowing him to make this Eagle push just a little bit stronger. He has full upgrades now. NilPferD up to the Castle Age, but it might be too little too late.
Oh, yeah, so there's not much he can do. I'm not sure if he even really has enough resources for many TCs. He can only just barely afford a town center. And he has so many villas just stuck in his TC, not able to go anywhere. So he's going to have a lot of problems.
Oh man, finally the first time I've seen the Magyar Hussar used in competitive Age of Empires 2, but it's really not going to be enough against these Eagle Warriors. Magyar Hussar is just going to get decimated. It's a cheap, really cool trash unit with an attack bonus versus siege weapons, but the Eagle Warriors are way stronger.
But it looks so pretty though. Look at that spear and the striped shield. He has to win on looks alone, in my opinion.
Oh, for sure. Well, NilPferD will build that second town center that you were just talking about, which will buy him a little bit of time. Right now he has, a brief moment to rebuild his economy, and he's trying his best to wall the middle of the map. There's no way it's going to happen. The Eagle Flood is out of control, partially due to the Aztecs being able to create military inches a little bit quicker. This Eagle Warrior rush is getting out of control.
And Pedro, I don't think he has enough knights to be able to stop this. Like, if Barles sent a good 30 or so Eagles straight to Pedro's base, he could probably clear him out completely at this stage.
Yeah, even the handful of Eagles that he has right now is forcing so much idle time. There's just not enough Cavaliers. I suppose the Elite Eagle Warriors really just came at exactly the right time. There was a brief window of opportunity where Pedro just didn't have a strong enough economy to actually build enough knights to defend, and as a result, Spring's team poised to win this game.
Although I do like Andorin's Castle Age 40-minute tower rush that's happening on Kong, following the castle.
Oh, he did this last game too on Team Islands. Are they calling GG?
Oh, we get a fourth game.
NilPferD says, time for Fortress, smiley face, which is something that I was really looking forward to. Game 4, of course, guys, is going to be Regicide Fortress, but with the African Kingdom civilization, so, I can dream. I've got dreams of a Camel Archer rush or something like that. Maybe we'll finally see the Shotel Warrior rush that we all hate. I can't wait to see Game 4.
Oh, I think Shotels could be really deadly on this map, because you start with the castles, so you're not going to slow down your fast castle time to build the castle. And, you just need 2 petards to break in, and because they make so damn quickly, you could get in and kill their economy pretty quickly.
For sure. Hey, I have to give tremendous credit to Team Rain for actually managing to make a comeback here. That's really impressive. You have to have some respectable tenacity to actually be able to continue fighting after sustaining this many losses. Spring fell down to 19 population, but they didn't give up. They kept going. He responded correctly, I think, by trying to go for a sling, and Barles making absolutely the right call. The Aztec Eagle Warrior Flood, you don't even need Garland Wars. At just the right time, managed to seal the deal.
Oh, it was a great game. All these games have actually been quite close, going back and forth a little bit through the middle, and then just slight advantages adding up towards the end.
Tremendous respect here. God, look at that 80 largest army. That really tells the entire story. Barles had a bigger army than the entire opposing team combined.
And the rest of his team combined with them.
Holy shit.
Just about.
And yet Pedro still had more units killed than units lost.
Well, Barles' army just came in at the end and just knocked everybody out, whereas Pedro just had that big early fight where he was just completely wrecking Spring's economy.
That's also a pretty respectable spring sling there. He actually managed to sling a relatively similar amount of resources to NilPferD did. I mean, obviously it was like 2k less, but considering how much of his own base that he lost is definitely significant enough. It came at the right time that Barles was able to steamroll that entire game. Down but not out. Oh man, this game. Oh. I'm so tired of 0-3 series. So this is a really pleasant surprise. I figured that these games would be really well balanced as both of these teams are tremendously talented. So I would have been disappointed if NC managed to get a clean 3-0 sweep. So we're moving on to Game 4 in just a minute. Thank you so much for watching so far, guys. Let us know your feedback on the tournament thus far, if you'd like us to do more of this. I'd be happy to. You can find the live streaming schedule on my Twitch page by scrolling underneath the video player. So if you're looking for more Age of Empires 2 videos or videos of other games, you're in the right place. We'll be right back in about 30 seconds or so with the draft for Game 4. So we'll see you all shortly.
The NC team has just gone to the bathroom, and I am going to do the same, so back in a minute.
Don't go anywhere, friends. We shall return in 1 minute. I'll put on some Age of Empires tunes or something like that in the meantime.